Hey, this is Tara Travell here at the Parenting Powerhouse podcast. I'm here to guide and support you through the ups and downs, challenges and triumphs of raising a neurodivergent child. So tonight's episode is about receiving that ASD diagnosis. So now what do we do? Well, before getting this diagnosis, I, just like a lot of other people, already knew there was something going on, right? So we saw differences in things. I mean, parenting is tough anyway. And as we're learning strategies and tips to deal with things, maybe some things work and maybe some things don't, but we can always push through and find something that works. Well, with these kids, more and more as they get older and older, things just aren't working and we're not able to really find the best ways to overcome challenges. It's almost as if it's hard to really understand what these kids are thinking or feeling. A little harder to read them, right? So one example or like one little story I want to share with you is my grandson. He lives with me and he is 13 now. And his whole life, because I'm a social communication specialist, I see things pop up that could be maybe a little spectrumy, or maybe because of his ADHD, I've noticed behavior. So I've been able to work him through it and work with him and really take things from his perspective the best I can, knowing that professionally. So he's always been very open with me. And I've really worked on his self-awareness and being able to understand what his mind is doing, what his body's doing sometimes. That really helps to get him to talk to me about things so we can process through it. So one thing that's really cool is that he's being reevaluated this week and being reevaluated for possible ASD. And he is super excited about this. Like, he can't wait for this evaluation to start. And he said, really, he just wants to know. He wants to know what's going on in his brain. He wants to know, is there an answer? Is there something that at least he can do something about or understand it better? And I thought that was really interesting. I don't know how many kids really feel like that, but I do have a lot of students that just feel a relief, and a lot of parents. It's a relief, right? At first, like, okay, I wasn't wrong. I'm not going crazy. There is something going on here, but now what? And there's a myriad of just resources out there and so much that comes your way from professionals in the school and maybe people that want to just give you lots of like information and resources. It's completely overwhelming, right? So what do we do with all of this? Well, start somewhere. And it is very, very overwhelming. It seems to be overwhelming. But really, what we want to do is take a look at the child and try to meet the child where they are. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and just see if we can put ourselves in their place a little bit better. And then also another biggie is to work on ourselves. And we'll get to that. Believe me. So I want to talk a little bit about the two kids that I've raised. My daughter, and she's an adult now, and then now my grandson. And they are both neurodivergent. And my daughter was very shy. So I knew there was something going on, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. She was so super shy. And, it was just so endearing because she was so sweet, so shy. And I just tried to help her through situations with that. My grandson, on the other hand, was the total opposite. He was so super outgoing. He would talk to anybody, his age, younger, adults even. We'd go to a store, and let me tell you, I was actually a little bit embarrassed, and I actually tried to stop this behavior when he was young. But he would strike up a conversation with somebody who was maybe shopping on the same garment rack that we were when we were in line at checkout. somebody behind us, somebody in front of us. He would just talk to anybody, and he would just talk and talk and talk. Anybody who was around. And honestly, it was kind of cute because the adults seemed to enjoy the conversations with him. I thought it was kind of cool. But it was unexpected and to me, maybe not appropriate all the time. So I tried to stop that behavior. But then something else happened. He was almost 6 years old, and we were in a Chinese buffet restaurant, and he was starving. He was so hungry, he couldn't wait to get the buffet. So I made it back to the table before he did, and he wasn't there. So it took him like an extra, I don't know, minute or two to come over. And he just came over and sat down. I just figured he was trying to pick out some food. Came over and sat down, and about 10, 15 minutes later, a woman came up to the table and said, I just want to say thank you because your boy helped my daughter when she dropped her food on the way back to the table. He stopped, put his food down, and helped her pick up everything. And I thought, oh my gosh, how sweet. And that was just kind of a wake-up call. Like, this kid is just kind of marching to, his own beat. And how can I just help him be him? And that's that aha moment I had. Like, all right, this is interesting, but I still didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I still felt embarrassed sometimes when behavior was off-putting and kind of out there. I always tried to cover it up or make excuses and so forth. So if you think about it, back with my daughter, that was prior to all of this, a long, long time ago before I knew any of this, I gave into normalizing behavior. That normalizing behavior trap that is present everywhere around us. School, grocery stores, family dinners. Oh my gosh, the family, right? I don't know if everybody experiences this, but people in our family can just put so much pressure on us. So I listened to others, their strategies, their advice, even professionals. And now looking back, I kind of wish I had known what I know now. So I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time educating myself, getting degrees, and then in my professional career, also a lot of money and time getting to know how to help these kids and coach the parents. So I've done all this work, and I've been practicing with my grandson who lives with me, and I am passing this information on to you so you can hopefully help, or I can help you and more people build the tools it takes to guide our kids' development instead of just changing it. Because I think that's what we kind of do, is try to change it, or at least a lot of professionals do. So let's get back to you receiving this ASD diagnosis. And I want to say, this is not a bad word, and it should not be shamed. There is only positivity around this diagnosis. And you're probably saying, what the hell is she talking about? This is really difficult. This is big, big, big. I don't know what to do with it. Well, why is it positive? Because now we have a new starting point. And that's the way we need to look at it. It may seem overwhelming because of all the information that's coming at you and all the resources to look into. And then there's a period similar to that mourning. And I'm not sure if anybody's gotten there yet, but there is that kind of like, it's almost like we're mourning. We feel like our kid is not going to have maybe a normal life, whatever that's supposed to mean, of course. But we try to normalize by thinking of all the challenges or missed opportunities. Oh my gosh, my kid's not going to graduate college. My kid's not going to be able to hold a job. My kid's not going to be able to play sports or, whatever it is that comes up in our mind that we try to compare or normalize. So my first suggestion as your parent guide here, stop freaking out and breathe. That's number one. And if you don't already know this, I am a big Friends fan. I watched it in the 90s, of course, and I use it often in my lessons with teens and young adults. when I teach social communication skills. And there's one episode where Chandler finds out that he could have a problem getting a job because he may not do well in an interview because of his joking and his sarcasm. Well, Phoebe Buffay agrees to help him with this so that he can go through the interview without maybe cracking too many jokes. And what she said to him just fits perfectly with this. She said to Chandler, "Just fight all of your natural instincts and you will be fine." Okay, let that resonate. And repeat that line when you are overwhelmed with a challenge your kid presents, right? Just fight all of your natural instincts and you will be fine, because that's what we're doing. We are just assuming and we're just rolling with the punches and going with what people have said. And we get caught up in that. What we need to do is actually try to meet our kid where they are. And it's not that easy. But the first step really is to make peace with yourself. Build a relationship with yourself, because all of these feelings are yours. Your kid is going to need your support to realize his true potential by meeting him just where he is. Comparing yourself or him to moms will only slow your progress, believe me. So are you still wondering where to find the positive when a meltdown is happening or you are being cursed at? Of course, that happens, right? Well, what are the positives? And I have 3 kind of examples that I came up with, because every cloud has a silver lining. It's what my dad always said. And sometimes I couldn't understand where to find that silver lining. But especially when we're caught in the middle of like a real emotional interaction or experience. But let's think of 3 different things our kids might do. When our kids' behavior is maybe cruel and really off-putting, well, how do we feel? We feel hurt, frustrated, embarrassed, right? That's how we feel, and that's how we may react. But the positive, if we can just look at it like, okay, they're communicating, they're trusting us enough to communicate, they're sending us a message. So the first thing to do is not assume anything, validate their feeling only, because they may not win an argument, and then listen. Be ready to listen. They may not be ready to talk, but if this happens, it may take 5, 10, 15 times for them to start to realize that there is something else going on. You're ready to listen. You're not jumping in and trying to fix them or make them feel like there is something wrong that they need to change. Just listen. Be ready to listen. Another one is when our kids make a really like stupid or ridiculous mistake, right? That we think, okay, they didn't need to do this. They've done it before or whatever. The positive here is they're learning, right? They're discovering. Let it go. Get past it. It happened. And then maybe plan to prevent if they're ready to talk about with you or process it with you. Another one is maybe they are just so disagreeable, they're pushing back, they may even be a bit defiant, right? Or they're avoiding. Well, the positive here is, again, they trust you, right? And are looking for possible acceptance and for you to teach them something that they don't know that they don't know. So it's time to kind of step back and hopefully just validate their feelings. Let them know, hey, I would be really upset about this too. And of course, they're overreacting, so we don't let them win, but let them know, hey, you know what? We can see it your way. And sure, there's nothing wrong with feelings. We cannot change our feelings. Our feelings happen no matter what. It's the emotion, it's how we emote those feelings that really matter. And we want to try to prevent any difficulty or try to control that, basically. So, my first suggestion as your parent guide is first, like I said, stop freaking out and breathe. All right? Then secondly, I want you to think about really working on yourself and getting yourself into a position where you're open to seeing the positive. And so you need to build yourself up and make yourself feel better. And I want you to remember this quote because I love it. It's by an unknown person, and there's so many quotes very similar to it, but I like the wording in this one. Run your own race and ignore what others are doing. Your only competition is yourself. This should be really for us and our kids, right? So I'm not going to lie to you. This is all going to take a lot of time to digest and fully believe it. And then there's the part of practicing it and just practicing it over and over and over again, because our kids have already built some strategies. They're not so good if they're doing some of these things. So these are strategies, they may be habit, and so it's going to take some time for them to realize that there's another way of thinking of things. There's another way of doing things, and there's a way of communicating it. So it will take time. So the only way to really fully believe is to embed it into your mind on the subconscious level. You need to remind yourself, you need to convince yourself that this is possible. So what I've done is I've created 2 affirmation pods to help you. And listen to these affirmations every day whenever you need to uplevel your mood or your state of mind. So remember, you are a great mom because you care. You are here after all. You are loved, you are valuable, and you are your kids' person. Take care and see you next week.